Hotep family. I am Onitaset Kumat, the host of the Pro-Black Perspective on KWAZ Radio, and we're doing the course on African philosophy. This is the penultimate lesson, lesson 21, and we're going to talk about the history of the UNIA. As usual, you should know I have books. I'm an author of the Book of Power. It's one of the best books you can read, as well as this. This is Message to the People is one of the best books as well. So let's check it out. Let's see how this goes, and definitely like, subscribe, and share. This is going to be a good one. The Universal Negro Improvement Association and African Communities Leagues was conceived as an organization for the purpose of raising the status of the Negro to national expression and general freedom. In the year 1913, during the visit of Marcus Garvey to Europe after he had completed an adventurous visit to the Central American republics. So the Central American republics, as you may know, is it's in America. He visited Europe. He already visited Central America, and he saw the world of African people and said, look, we can change this. And he did. So the concept continued to impress itself upon him until the conceiver was compelled to make it practical during his stay in England during the same period. To make it practical, he sailed from England, foregoing a course of law which he had undertaken for the purpose of a profession. In June 1914, he sailed from England to Jamaica, BWI, British West Indies, his native home. In July of 1914, he got together a group of men and women in the city of Kingston, and there he organized the association. Meetings in the name of the association, UNIA and ACL, were held regularly. Later, he held meetings of the organization at the Collegiate Hall in the central part of the city of Kingston, Jamaica. A group of officers was elected, and the organization came into substantial existence. Many meetings were held in different parts of Jamaica in the name of the organization, and it continued to exist in the island as an organization until the year 1916. When the founder sailed for America. On his arrival in America, he visited Tuskegee Institute on an outstanding invitation from the late Dr. Booker T. Washington. At the Institute, he met with the principal, Dr. Robert R. Moten, and Professor E.J. Scott, the Secretary-Treasurer. He discussed with them the purpose of the organization, which was similar to the present aims and objects of the organization, which have been written into the UNIA Constitution. Mr. Garvey received very little encouragement and left Tuskegee to continue a trip throughout the United States. On his return to New York, he visited Dr. W.B. Du Bois at the office of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. He discussed with him the aims and objects of the association and the possibility of organizing the movement in the United States. He was very much discouraged by Dr. Du Bois. He undertook to organize on his own account in Harlem by first speaking on the streets, principally Lenox Avenue, during week evenings and inviting his listeners to attend Sunday meetings at Lafayette Hall at 129th Street and 7th Avenue. The meetings at Lafayette Hall grew rapidly in membership, with occasional overflowing mass meetings held at the Palace Casino at 135th Street and 5th Avenue. After Lafayette Hall became too small to accommodate the growing membership meetings, the Palace Casino was secured for regular mass meetings, and offices were established on the premises above what was then known as the Crescent Theater at 135th Street. From the Crescent Theater building to the Palace Casino, the movement grew with such rapidity that premises were secured at 138th Street between Lenox and 7th Avenue to be known as Liberty Hall. All this progress took place within 18 months of the founding of the organization in Harlem, New York. So Liberty Hall is the Boko. Remember, I told you have to have a program. The program for us is Boko Waset Nakeru. The Boko is Liberty Hall. Okay? You have to have, there's a process, there's a start. The first step is this. It's the first step. And this is how our people have organized. This is how our people are organized from time immemorial. We started with Boko. We started with Liberty Hall. From Liberty Hall, the movement spread all over the United States and all over the world, culminating in the calling and convening of the first International Convention of the Negro Peoples of the World in August 1920 in New York. At that convention, Marcus Garvey was elected President General, with 20 other persons making up the Executive Council to help guide the destiny of the organization that had become international. For further information on the history of the UNIA-ACL, read the first and second volumes of the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. Not just the and that's what I want to say. For further information on the history of African nation building, I want you to read the Book of Power. So we're gonna switch to that quick fast. All right, we're gonna switch to that quick fast.
Okay, so I know books. Alright, so let me tell
Listen,
you
the
about
goal and objective. Okay,
so
the goal and objective is to be selective, electing for knowledge with the black directive, checking sources, heritage, and legacies, with the brilliance to defeat our nemesis.
The book of power, so aptly named, esteemed and famed, forming the brain, and doing the same as the ancestors before us. Sankofa, afterlife chorus, wisdom is the key against dangers.
Take the leaders who lead the changes.
We are doing Africa with no strangers.
No strangers.
Do you hear us? Okay, hold on. We can't continue to beat the
second fiddle.
African power is the end of the fiddle. To build the nation, the lights which never existed. The motto heretofore, we persisted. Better, we resisted. Best, we building. We'll raise the roof and break through the ceiling. Peeling away the chains we were given to stop just surviving, start thriving and living. Africa's about to host superpowers. China and US back up in 5 hours. No one can be free without freeing themselves.
Freedom is shown and honed on bookshelves. The book of power, a key for liberation, is no domination where there's education. Because ignorance is man's main weakness. All are exploited if we don't teach this. Within the pages of sages, kings and queens, Akampa, Delaney, Dessalines, Niede, Garvey, and Zinga and Cooks. 500 pages surpassing most books. The task is told to bring up a continent. You will hold the tone for the competent.
Have some fire to push forward your chest. You're leading by reading one of the best. The book and science covers violence, self-reliance, and does away with silence. The time has come for the work to get done and build up a land that is second to none.
We'll organize, technologize, and strategize a new Africa before our eyes.
Blackness will be the complexion we see anytime we envision what it means to be free. So come join minds, read what is written. Here be solutions, no longer hidden. Nothing works in theory, all that works, works and works. So it's time to put ourselves first. Change the leaders and lead the changes. Tell your friends, family, and neighbors. Change the leaders and lead the changes. Tell your friends, family, and neighbors. Change the leaders and lead the changes. Tell your friends, family, and neighbors. Change the leaders and lead the changes. Book of Power. So the Book of Power,
come on,
can be purchased on Amazon.
Purchased on Amazon. Go click on Amazon. Come on, click the link. Go click the link.
Alright, send me on tap.
Tous les némas, toujours les usés. Tous les némas, toujours les usés. Tous les némas, toujours les usés. Hotep. Come on, talk about it. All right. Yo, I love that thing, man. All right. Let's go to this. So this is how to teach the UNIA. To know what the UNIA is, you must first read its Constitution and Book of Laws from cover to cover. By the way, I do publish the Constitution of the UNIA in the Book of Power. So I'm trying to tell you, this is about nation building for real. So you must also read the literature written by the founder bearing on the activities of the organization. The preamble of the Constitution is vitally important to those who are to interpret its supreme object. Whenever the purpose of the organization is challenged by foes in particular, quote the preamble of the Constitution. This should be done especially when the organization's enemies assail it before a court of law or before governmental authorities. The preamble was written especially for the purpose of winning the sympathy and support of alien races where the other objects of the association are being threatened by hostility. The UNIA and ACL was intended as one organization to carry out all the aims and objects of the Constitution, where the laws of the states in which the organization operates separate the function of friendly and fraternal organization from those of business organizations. Hence, in the incorporation of the name of the association in the state of New York in 1918, the two organizations were incorporated separately. The organizations had to be incorporated as the Universal Negro Improvement Association Incorporated and the African Communities League Incorporated. The UNIA was incorporated as a fraternal organization, and the African Communities League was incorporated as a business organization. With the convention of 1920 accepted the original idea and linked the two organizations together as the UNIA and ACL to hold the principles that were intended so that the two organizations would not go apart as if they were not related. Whenever the UNIA does business, it will do so as the African Communities League or as some other business organization, as evidenced in the incorporation of the Black Star Line, the Black Cross Navigation and Trading Company, the Negro Factories Corporation, with all its capital held by the UNIA. No private individuals are intended to own the capital of any of these enterprises because these enterprises were organized as future ones will be organized, only for the purpose of supplying funds by way of profit to the UNIA to carry out its aims and objects as laid out in the Constitution of the UNIA in the interest of the race. All subordinate companies of a business nature must be controlled by the UNIA to enable it to carry out the aims and objects of the UNIA and to comply with the laws of the respective states. Membership in the UNIA is divided into two kinds: the active members who join a division or branch of the association and pays the regular dues according to the Constitution and bylaws of the organization. An active member has claim through his or her division to all benefits. All Negroes are considered ordinary members by virtue of their race. Charity may be dispensed to ordinary members if it is available and they can prove need. The association is supposed to maintain an interest in every Negro, irrespective of his nationality or his condition, as long as he has not been proved a traitor to the race and outlawed as such. Askari are not a part of the African organization. Of the Ankobia will, the Askari are not a part. You do not... nationality and all that, like whatever. If an Askari the Askari are not to be provided for at all. Okay? All the properties of the UNIA and associate business or corporations, companies, or enterprises are held in trust for the Negro race and the relationship of the race through the active membership in the organization as explained above. The accumulated wealth and property of the organization must be handed down from generation to generation as the property of the Negro race through the UNIA, because it is held in trust to be given back to those who need it as the occasion may demand. Always give a receipt for money received in connection with the UNIA. Always keep proper records and always have a duplicate for your protection. If you receive money from people in the name of the organization and do not give a receipt, you can bet they will investigate for the purpose of trapping you, and then your name will be dead if there is any delinquency. You have to see this. Always give a receipt. Always give a receipt for money received in connection with the UNIA. Keep a proper record and always have a duplicate for your protection. That's a receipt book. Okay? Have a receipt book. If you receive money from people in the name of the organization and do not give a receipt, you can bet they will investigate to trap you, and then your name will be dead if there's any delinquency. When you attend a meeting of the UNIA as a representative and you are to receive money for the parent body, always let that money be received first on the records of the local division through its officers, from whom you are raising it for the parent body for a particular purpose, so that when an account is to be made, the local records will support your record to the parent body. Whenever you visit a division of the organization as an official representative of the parent body, you are then the superior officer. You shall then see that all things are conducted in the proper way in your presence in accordance with the Constitution. When visiting a division, always make your visit profitable both to the division and the parent body. Never create a loss or tax on the local division by your visit. Every visit you make to a division should be an opportunity for you to enroll new members for that division and to increase the enthusiasm of the local members for that organization. In planning a visit to a division, whether it is a regular visit or otherwise, always inform the president and the secretary respectively and get them to make the necessary local announcements so as to give you an extraordinary attendance of people and members so that you may have an opportunity to increase the local membership. If your visits are always an asset to the division, they will always invite you outside of your regular visitation to come among them. The expenses of your trip should be well figured out before you make it. Railroad fare to and fro or bus fare to and fro, accommodations, katha wakatha. Hence, you should see that the meetings are worked up to such magnitude so that when they are held, they will cover these expenses. When you visit a division in your territory, your financial returns should not be only from the division, but you should seek to use the time that you are in the community to get support from individuals and to do work for the association, thereby killing two birds with the same stone. You should always observe the proper form of opening and closing a meeting, as well as the proper form for conducting the meeting of the association. They are as follows: opening hymn from Greenland's icy mountains, reading of the prayers in the ritual or hymn sheet of the association. When your program is not too crowded and the time for meeting is lengthy, you may go through the whole form of prayers. If there is not sufficient time, read only such part of the prayers as would enable you to go through the program without length. After the prayers, sing either Shine, O Eternal Light or O Africa Awaken, then go into the rest of the program. When you are closing the program, close with the prayers of the association for the purpose and sing the African National Anthem. Now, there's a lot of prayers here, a lot of hymns, but, you know, what can you expect? I've heard that Garvey studied like his oratory, like looking at the pastors and so on and so forth. I think he even admits it earlier, right? All right, so whenever you object whenever your object is to raise financial assistance or collection for the parent body or for the local division, let the raising of the same come in the middle of the program, after your most emphatic speech of the day is delivered, whether it is to be delivered by yourself or somebody else. And he mentioned this earlier in the public speaking part. If you have things to dispose of for the association or other help to get, this must come after the main collection. If you are the person appealing for the collection, you must do so with steady emphasis and a properly worded appeal. This must never be done half-heartedly, because it will bring half-hearted results. If you have raised the collection for the parent body at a meeting, see to it that it has been properly accounted for after it is taken up. Make sure that it is not mixed up with the funds of the local division. When visiting a division, you are always the guest of that division. The president presides and then introduces you. If it is a special business meeting where you have been called in to regulate the affairs of the division, you will take the chair as a representative of the parent body and conduct the meeting accordingly and restore order, and then hand the meeting back to the president of the responsible officer of the division. So again, you get it, right? When you're visiting a division, you're always the guest, okay? So he's talking about how you're organized. This is organization 101, if you will. Well, not even 101. You could say 301 or 501. It's a little more advanced than 101, but the idea is that he's giving you insight into how the UNIA is expected to run. When a president has been removed and you have been called in, you may appoint someone temporarily, such as the vice president, to act until you have reported the matter to the parent body, and the parent body carries out an appointment. If there happens to be factions in the division and you are called in to straighten out their affairs, never take up residence at the home of either side. Seek independent lodging until you have disposed of the matter. Otherwise, you will have the prejudice against you for taking sides. Never listen to one side without hearing the other side. Never give the decision on one side without hearing the other side. Always try to pacify. Always try to bring factions together in keeping with the principles of the association. Always try to compromise the factions towards keeping the peace. Whenever you make your official visit to the division as a representative of the parent body, always call for the records. Go through them and see that they are properly kept, and then make a report to the parent body. Whenever you see mistakes that can be corrected, see that they are corrected. Don't allow them to continue. Never allow any division to have individuals owning the property of the division in their names, except in cases where proper documents have been passed, where the organization is not registered, as between the persons and the organization, showing that they are only holding such in trust for the organization. But all this should be discouraged, and immediate steps taken to register the organization in the particular state or community so that its property may be held in its name. When property is bought in the name of the organization's name must be mentioned, and only the names of the officers of the organization at that time must appear as officers, not as individuals. For instance, Brooklyn Division of the UNIA, John Brown President, Henry Jones Secretary. In law, the names are taken as being officers of an organization. Hence, the individuals can make no separate claim on the property as individuals, should they not continue as officers of the organization. Those who then become officers of the organization would have their names substituted as officers. This would not affect the ownership of the property by the organization. Pay careful attention to this so that the association may not be defrauded of its property or its rights. Always look out for self-seeking officers and individuals in a division. See to it that they do nothing detrimental to the interests of the organization. Always confine yourself to your own designated territory and never go beyond it except when authorized to do so. Always respect the charter rights of every division, chapter, branch, or affiliated organization. Never use one against the other as long as they are chartered. Have no favorite division except the one that you may be a member of. Always hold an even balance. Always encourage cooperation between the divisions. If a member cannot get along in one division before his membership is lost, advise him to join another division. Whenever there are no divisions or chapters and there are Negroes in the community, encourage the organizing of a branch, chapter, or a division. Over 1,000 Negroes in a community ought to have a division or a chapter. So in a community where you have 200,000 Negroes, you may have many divisions according to the district and location. All 200,000 of those Negroes could belong to one or two divisions. You should approach ministers of the gospel in the community and ask them to organize chapters in their churches, of which they will be the presidents, so as to get their church members to be UNIA members. Now, this is something, like, again, I wouldn't do this personally, but it's a recommendation. You have to realize that that's where people are. That's what you kind of do. Do the same with lodges and fraternities. They can also be chapters of the UNIA, even though they are independent lodges and fraternities. So the arguments for the Constitution, perpetuation, and support of the UNIA. The UNIA's work from 1917 to 1937. 1. The UNIA has stirred the entire world of Negroes to a consciousness of race pride which never existed before. 2. The UNIA, and this is important. I actually want to go over this stuff. It's true. Before the UNIA came to America, black people were saying, "Oh, I am so proud that I have some white blood in me. I'm so proud I have white somebody, blah, 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 blah." And they're like, "Oh, I'm not an African. I'm not blah, blah, blah." Garvey changed that. He changed the world. You give him props. Give him props. The UNIA broke down the barriers of racial nationality among Negroes and caused American, African, West Indian, Canadian, Australian, and South and Central American Negroes to realize that they have a common interest. This is another brilliant thing. This is how Pan-Africanism comes about. This is what we have to do on the continent of Africa with their ethnic groups of, Zulu, Ashanti, Yoruba, whoever. You don't want that. You want to break down those barriers and let us have common interests and common government. That's what we want. Common government. Government on the laws of Ma'at. Government on being noble and righteous Africans who have commerce and enterprise. This is what you want. This is what you can have. And again, I want to bring this as well. You have the books. But this is what the UNIA was doing, and this is something excellent. The UNIA has given Negroes throughout the world a program of racial nationalism which never existed before. I'm giving you the program that existed before? Yes, true. Because it worked. Alright? The association calls all Negroes to recognize their common origin as Africans and their African descent. It has caused all the other races to recognize the national aspiration of the Negro. It placed the Negro's cause before the League of Nations and the Versailles Peace Treaty. It placed the national aspiration of the Negro before the Disarmament Conference in Washington in 1924. The UNIA caused the French, English, and other European governments with colonies in Africa and the West Indies to extend greater privilege to the native races and to offer them more secure positions in the respective civil services, diplomatic services, and political life of the country. And listen to this. Eventually, these civil servants, these diplomatic servants, these politicians of these colonies became the presidents. Basically, what happened was that we fought for independence because we set in motion this transformation of the world. And this is what you have to do. You have to be an individual who transforms this world. I'm giving it to you. Garvey's giving it to you. We're giving it to you. Take it. Negro justices, magistrates, and head of government departments were appointed because of the activities of the UNIA in different countries. The economic status of Negroes was raised in different countries because of the association. The association taught the Negro how to go into big business. It taught the Negro how to secure his own business enterprises, through which tens of thousands of Negro businesses have been started all over the world. It taught Negroes how to support their own professional men, doctors, lawyers, etc. The UNIA taught the Negro how to support his own church. They taught the Negro, no, that's not a good one, but whatever. I'm just like, okay, we get it, Oni. You don't like church. Okay. It taught the Negro how to use his political power, from which he has benefited in the United States, the West Indies, Africa, and other countries. The UNIA gave the Negro a national flag and a national hymn. The red, black, and green right here. It caused the other races to spell the word Negro with a capital N. Can you believe that? They used to not spell it with a capital N. And the UNIA was like, nah, it's Negro. Now, of course, we don't use Negro anymore, but yeah, capital N. And to this day, I don't spell white. I try to avoid spelling white with a capital W. Even when it's like the first word of a sentence. I'm like, nope, it's lowercase. Anyway, it taught Negroes self-respect for their race. It brought courage to the Negro race throughout the world. It caused the Negro to search for a new type of leadership. It taught the Negro preparedness against adversity. It has been the most outstanding Negro organization throughout the world. It is the most recognized international organization among Negroes. It is known in all parts of the world. It has taught the Negro to follow only Negro leadership. It has saved the Negro from a hypocritical, dishonest leadership of other people, which has never brought the Negro any good results. It taught the Negro that the cats don't lead the rats, nor the lions the sheep, nor the wolves the fox, and so Negroes should lead Negroes. The UNIA has taught the Negro to never rely upon the sweet-sounding words and promises of others, but to rely on his words and his own promises if he is to be led safely. It has taught the Negro to believe in himself and not to believe that what another man seeks for himself he is going to give away freely. This is how it is. In a world of finite resources, no one's going to give you a resource that they themselves want. You understand? They're there to exploit you and at best they're there for reciprocity. Rarely they're there for reciprocity. But if they're there for but the idea that they're going to just give to you, no, come on. It has taught the Negro to have his own labor organizations and not to expect other laborers who are competing with him for the same employment to give honest leadership for him to compete with them for the same job. It is the only organization that has given the Negro an international outlook. It gave the Negro press a broader point of view. It has kept the Negro from going red for the convenience of others. In 20 years, UNIA changed the attitude of the Negro and set him on the way to a new hope. One of the fundamental desires of the UNIA is to approach every Negro with the attitude of friendship, brotherhood, and sympathy. Therefore, every representative of the association must adopt an attitude that works to bring about the realization of such a desire. It may be necessary to use a great amount of tolerance to reach the desired end, but whatever is necessary must be done to bring about such a state of affairs. The policy is that you cannot drive a Negro away from the organization and still want to organize all the Negroes. Every Negro that is lost prevents the ultimate achievement of the aims of the organization. So never try to drive a member of the organization. Drive out a member of the organization, hold him and convert him. But of course there are Ascari. Don't make exception for Ascari, because as Garvey said before, don't trust a person twice. Drive away those who are Ascari. But understand, this is why I embrace our brothers and sisters. I embrace them wholly upon meeting them. But sometimes they prove that they do not deserve this love, and I do not give away my love. I look for reciprocity. I do not give freely. I don't. Always appreciate the fact that the majority of Negroes are ignorant, and you must exercise a great amount of tolerance to educate them to your point of view. This is your missionary work. As other people were willing to sacrifice their time and even their lives to Christianize our race, so you must exercise patience and time to civilize our people. And civilize is not a good word, but that's the word, that's the phrasing of that time. The attitude of expelling members and suspending members is not accepted with good grace and should be resorted to only under the most extreme circumstances. The attitude should be adopted to find an alternative to expulsion. The best way to prevent dissatisfaction and division is to live up to the Constitution and bylaws, because it is only with the Constitution and bylaws that you can discipline a member. If a member violates the Constitution and bylaws, you can reasonably draw the violation to his or her attention. You cannot show partiality in a division of the association or in the work of the association. You must be impartial to maintain the principles of the association as the attraction for those who do not know anything about the association. Never cease in your effort to influence a Negro to join the association until he is joined. So long as he stays out of the UNIA, the work of uniting all the Negroes cannot be accomplished. Always remember that you are a missionary for the cause of the association, so lose no opportunity that may present itself to make converts for the association. A splendid, and this is what I'm saying, you have to keep recruiting, you have to keep recruiting. You're like, why only do you keep mentioning this Discord? I keep mentioning Discord because you are not on it. Okay, if you're on it, love it. If you're not on it, get on it. Okay? We have to keep becoming larger. The interest of the African people has to keep getting larger. There's no other way. A splendid way of proselytizing for the association is to interest all of your friends and acquaintances in its movement. Whenever you go among them, tell them of anything done and accomplished by the association. Always find some work for the association. During the time you are not actually attending a meeting of the association or doing any special work for the association, devote your time in calling upon your acquaintances in the neighborhood, in your community, to talk them into becoming members and supporters of the association. You should know all the people of your... Now, this is something this is a really important paragraph. Okay? A really important paragraph. Again, you want to go into your own community. I'm going to give you a while to look at it. Okay. You should know all the people of your race on your street, in your neighborhood, and in your town. Approach them in your leisure hours, one by one, to convert them to the organization and to get support from them for the organization. When you come across responsible people of the race, take their names, professions, and addresses after talking to them about the association, and send the same in a weekly report or monthly report to the President General's office at headquarters. Ask the President General to communicate with these persons in the manner you think would best help to clinch the support of these persons for the organization. In your own town, secure the names, addresses, and professions of all the responsible people, doctors, lawyers, merchants, preachers, etc. Send these names to the headquarters with comments about each person for headquarters to help influence these persons to support the organization. Always keep in touch with the newspapers published in your community. Get the newspaper publishers to print favorable news about the activities of the organization. See to it that every intelligent person in the community of the race subscribes to or purchases the Black Man, so that that they, and the black man is the paper, obviously, so that they may keep up with the activities of the movement. Read the black man regularly yourself, so that others will not have information you have not got. When you attend meetings of divisions as an official, always carry yourself with dignity and always be impartial in dealing with the affairs of the division. If you take sides not based on the Constitution, you are only destroying your own usefulness in that division and to that parent body. Your honor must always be uppermost in dealing with matters affecting the division when you visit them. If you are an official of the parent body, always see that the dignity of the parent body is maintained through you. Any bad behavior on your part will reflect upon the judgment of the parent body in appointing you. If you are a representative of the parent body with proper credentials, you must observe the agreement entered into between you and the parent body for dealing with the affairs of the association. Any violation of the agreement may cause you to lose your office as a representative of the parent body. Never overstep your authority in dealing with the division as a representative of the parent body. Never attempt to show your grand superiority to the displeasure of members of the division or officers of the division. Be as modest yet as firm as you can be in your dealing. Nothing invites antagonism more than an arrogant, unreasonable display of power. The most powerful people in the world are the most modest when dealing with those whose goodwill they depend upon. They know how much immodesty offends others. Never try to be offensive. Never threaten others, but reason with them. To threaten an officer or members to invite antagonism and belligerence, which will make your task more difficult. Never enter into any unworthy arrangement with officers or members of divisions, because ultimately, they will expose you when you do not do things to suit them. The moment you enter into a dishonorable arrangement, the person you have done so with holds it as a club over your head and will place you in a false position. In order not to expose yourself, don't do it. When working as a representative in a community to get results for the association, you should divide that community into zones or districts. You may even reduce the district to streets or blocks of streets and appoint some responsible and enthusiastic member in that zone, district, or street to be a kind of captain or lieutenant to keep the spirit of the people in the area regulated to the principles of the organization. The captain or lieutenant must be an active member of the division. Since he lives on the street, he would likely know all the people on the street and could help greatly in organizing them as members of the organization. You have to understand that this was real organizing, not this, social media crap. This was real organizing. You pay attention, pay close attention. Your chief aim must be to organize every man, woman, and child. If with all this material and possibilities you cannot make the UNIA succeed in that community, you yourself are a colossal failure and not the people. The greatest recognition of your merit and ability will be reflected by the number of people who are members of the association in your community, district, town, or state. Their activities will testify to your greater activities in their midst. Again, you have gangs who will prevent you from being that great recognition. You have churches who will prevent you from being that great recognition. However, if you can work around it, which Garvey could, you can be that success. Otherwise, you should not expect promotion from the parent body except you have something to recommend you. You have something to recommend you in your community for such a promotion. Otherwise, your promotion will not be fair to someone else who has done his or her work. Don't complain, do the job. Get results. The moment you start to complain, you are stating that this thing cannot be done. If you cannot do it at one place, you cannot do it at another. You are a failure. You are no good. Let your pride be in winning over an adversary. It gives good satisfaction. You have enough material in the UNIA to use as an argument against any man who is a member of the race, caring not how destructive he is. Therefore, don't leave him until you have converted him. Talk him out. In this respect, bring all of your diplomacy to bear. Use all the experience you have had in dealing with men and enlarge on and explain every good point of the UNIA. Carry your constitution and read the preamble and the aims and objects to him. Explain them as you have been taught them, and when he makes up his mind to join, get him right there. If you have approached him to become a member, let him join then. If you have approached him for support, get him to write or give his support right there. Afterwards, immediately thank him by correspondence for joining or supporting to give him an impression of your business-like ability. The best time to call on people is immediately after meals, not before, because when people are hungry, they are not in a good mood. Call immediately after the breakfast hour, the dinner hour, and the supper hour. If you are calling at the office, never call an hour before lunch or an hour before dinner. Always go smiling and pleasant. Don't carry a long face. So call is obviously to visit people. If you have been abruptly received and abruptly talked to, reply with pleasant remarks and smile your subject into changing his or her mood. Even a savage will admit defeat when met by a smile. If a person has a frown on his face, say, "I hope you are well, Mr. Jones." That will put him off guard immediately. If he states that he is not well, sympathize with him and tell him about some remedy you know. This is a good psychology to win your subject. Or you may say, "You have a very pretty picture here, Mr. Jones," or some other thing, though not pretty to flatter his vanity, but to take him out of his sullen mood. If he is a smoker, offer him a cigarette. Tell him something that you think he ought to be interested in. You may hit upon something by looking at the things around him. Have you seen the latest picture? Have you heard the latest news? Then go into your subject after you have changed his attitude. Don't start talking to a sullen man on the subject you are approaching him on until you have won him on over to a pleasant mood. That's pretty important. When you're talking about recruiting and engaging people on the street, that's what I used to do myself. I kind of went straight into it, but ascertain into the emotional mood of a person and make sure that they're pleasant so that they can be receptive. This is brilliant stuff. It would be better to go back and visit him a second time. Always point out to him that the UNIA acts as a trustee for the race. Help him to understand that every Negro benefits from the success of the organization. In arguing for support of the UNIA, draw extensively upon your imagination and find an argument to support you. You have the argument of the success of a nation, the success of other race groups, and always use the Jew as an argument. Now, he does it a lot in this. I don't really agree to it, but, it's worthwhile. People understand it. I think I did it a couple of times in real life. Like on the streets, and I was like, yeah, but see, they do it. And you're like, oh, really? Oh, yeah, we enjoy it. Why don't we do it? So among the first persons to be approached for help for the UNIA are professionals and businessmen and women of the race. A better organized race will mean better business for them. Tell them that is the work of the UNIA. Therefore, they should support it. Let them realize the power you have in your hand to direct patronage one way or the other as an organization. So you see that. You approach these business people and you say, look, you help us get our people organized, we will direct business to you. Come on. Like, just brilliance. To win over your new prospect, tell him that Mr. So-and-so has done so-and-so for the organization, but it must be a fact, not a lie. Then he will not want to be left out and will support you. This must not be done for personal profit, because if you are found using this method for personal gain, you'll be struck off the roll of students and be disqualified as representative, because the moment the person finds out that you have used the approach for personal purposes, you have damaged the association and your own reputation. Hence, you are of no use either to the association or to anybody else. The first International Convention of UNIA, held in New York from the 1st to the 31st of August 1920, formulated and adopted the Declaration of Rights of the Negro Peoples of the World, to which the organization is committed until the objects of the said declaration are fully realized. The declaration must be studied by each leader of the race. It is to be found on page 135 in the second volume of the Philosophy and Opinions of Marcus Garvey. In seeking financial aid for the UNIA, always do so with confidence. The high and lofty aims of the association and the universal objects to be achieved can only be done through the support of each and every member of the race. This calls for the support of every man. To gain such support, always impress upon the Negro that heretofore he has supported white organizations such as the churches, and he has contributed to their institutions without getting any direct benefit. He has even supported the Salvation Army. Therefore, there is no reason why he should not support a movement of his own that calculates to bestow upon him and his generations untold benefits. Contributions to the UNIA should be generally accepted from Negroes, but where other people of other races can be approached and are willing to give help, such help may be accepted, but without any strings attached or promises made that would in any way compromise the clear-cut intelligence of the policy of the UNIA. Such contributions do not entitle the donors of any privilege of membership or to any right to attend the meetings of the UNIA except public meetings as guests. The contribution should never entitle them to attend or take part in any of the business meetings of the organization. The donation may be accepted in the same way as Negroes give to white organizations without having any claim on those organizations. Look at this brilliance. So yeah, you get a little white money from another person. You get a little white money, whatever. That doesn't entitle them to anything. Okay, because we give to some of our people give to white organizations. We don't get anything. We're not entitled to anything. You have to look at the world as it is. At the end of the day, it's about the leadership. It's about what the leadership is and who's leading the organization, and that would be us. Okay, that would be us as a people. I'm in a little bit of a rush, so I'm kind of rushing a little bit. Come on. Whenever donations are accepted from other races, the name of such persons, when registered on the same account of donations as that of Negroes, must be marked with a cross. And when such donations are being forwarded to the parent body, an explanation must be given, stating that such a person is a member of the white race, whatever race the person may be, so that no communication of a private nature will be sent to that person which reveals the business of the UNIA. So whenever you do accept a donation, you just make sure you maintain, oh yeah, this is a white person. Okay? This is a very important because by not distinguishing between the donors, such person may be written to as if they are members of the UNIA. They may be sent communications that they have no right to receive. In approaching people of other races for help, your argument must be different from that of an approach to members of your race. Your appeal should be based on humanity, good citizenship, or helping a worthy cause. Never explain the objects that are of uppermost importance to the UNIA because they will be naturally react with unfriendliness and suspicion. Never believe that another race is so friendly as to know your objects and not try to hinder you in ultimately succeeding. Let me see how long. Okay, I'm actually in a rush, but I'll try to do it. Let's see. It helps me succeeding. I might have to take a break to do what I got to do, but let's see. Whenever you make an appeal to an individual or individuals for financial help for the organization and you have failed in getting a response, the failure is not due to the person or persons you have addressed yourself to, but may be due to your inability to properly interpret to them the objects and aims of the UNIA and the reason why they should support the association. Always be in a position to interpret those aims and objects to gain support because people are always willing to respond to a thing that is the benefit to them, even in a remote way. Never approach anyone for help for the association without doubt in your mind. Never approach anyone for help for the association with doubt in your mind. It is better that you wait until you are in a frame of mind to talk conscientiously so as to carry conviction rather than try to do so when your spirit is low. Let every day, every hour, and every minute count in your life for something done, something accomplished. Don't waste time, it is a sin. Time wasted can never be recalled or regained. Try to always be the best advocate of the cause of the UNIA. Try to let no one surpass you in doing that. There is something in you that is individual that nobody else has. Try to bring it out and let that be your individuality and personality, for which people will remember you and talk about you. There is nothing that someone else has done in the triumph of a cause that you cannot do if you go about it in the right way. Always try to find the right way. Never hang around people who are always discouraged, despondent, poverty-stricken, poor, and never do well. You will ultimately become like them. Try to get around cheery people, happy people, prosperous people, and you'll unconsciously take on their prosperity and their happiness. Never live in a house with or keep company with people who always have bad luck stories. Their sin will come upon you, for the same evil spirit that is following them may also be near you. Always appear bright when you are seeking help for the UNIA. This is so true. I'm telling you. I used to live with once upon a time I dated a woman. Let's say. Long story short, don't do this. Dealing with divisions. In dealing with the division of the UNIA, always recognize the division itself as a chartered body, as the representative body. The units of a division, according to the Constitution, are all subordinate to division. The division officer are the only responsible officers in a division. No auxiliary has the status of the division. In dealing with the division, first recognize the officers of the division according to the Constitution. The legions, the Black Cross nurses, the motor corps, and all other auxiliaries must be obedient to the officers of the division. Okay, everything is this is the hierarchy. Great care must be taken in watching and controlling the activities of the legions, because in ignorance they are apt to get the division or organization in trouble by trying to exercise authority while they are only members of an organization registered by the state. The legion's function is more physical, cultural, and disciplinary than anything else. Any hostile demonstration by them that endangers the community or the peace thereof or creates trouble among the members must be quickly put down, and if necessary their unit suspended to prevent such trouble. The legion has no control over the Black Cross nurses. The Black Cross nurses are a separate unit. The only relationship may be that someone from the legion with the ability to train may give them physical exercise and proper discipline. The Black Cross nurses fall entirely under the supervision of their own head nurse, who is to seek for them first aid training from some medical institution or individual through the officers of the division. The Mortar Corps is also an independent body of women who may be trained by a competent legion officer but with no direct affiliation. See to it that divisional officers do not allow members of the legion to appoint themselves to any office as lieutenants, captains, majors, colonels, or whatnot without the authority of the president, who is the ranking officer of the legions in his division, as set down in the Constitution. See to it that divisions do not allow Tom, Dick, and Harry to go into the division to speak to and lecture to them without the authority of the parent body, and that they do not allow anybody to use the meetings of the UNIA to put over their own propaganda, which tend to distract members from the UNIA. See to it that no fake lecturer or wildcat scheme representative gets into any meeting of the UNIA through any individual influence. Keep a close eye on African princes, chiefs, princesses, and all such fake personalities who come into the meetings of the UNIA. No prince, chief, or princess adopts such methods of going around begging and exploiting. And this actually, like I said, I talk about the sister from earlier. All right. I'm actually have to take I gotta quickly go do something. I'll be right back. But I was talking about the sister from earlier who claimed to be a princess or something along those lines, and then she kind of had fair wages, and then that got Garvey kind of in trouble, even to this day. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take a quick little break. If you want, I gotta go do something quickly. All right, hold on a second.
Okay, so I know books, alright? So let me tell you about a book. Alright, check it. So the goal and objective is to be selective, electing for knowledge with the black directive, checking sources, heritage, and legacies, with the brilliance to defeat our nemesis. The book of power, so aptly named, esteemed and famed for informing the brain, and doing the same as the ancestors before us. Sankofa, that's the life chorus. Wisdom is the key against dangers. Either change the leaders or lead the changes. We are due in Africa with no strangers. Do you hear us? Okay, hold on. We can't continue to beat the second fiddle. African power is the end of this riddle. Let's build a nation the likes which never existed. The motto heretofore, we persisted. Better, we resisted. Best, we building. We'll raise the roof and break through the ceiling. Peeling away the change we were given to stop just surviving, start thriving and living. Africa's about to host superpowers. China and US back up in time hours. No one can be free without freeing themselves. But freedom is shown and owned on bookshelves. The book of power, a key for liberation. There's no domination where there's education, because ignorance is man's main weakness. All are exploited if we don't teach this. Then the pages of sages, kings and queens, Akampong, Delaney, Dessalines, Nyere, Garvey and Zinga and Cooks. 500 pages surpassing most books. The task is told to bring up a continent. You will hold the tone for the confident. Have some pride and push forward your chest. Your leaders by reading one of the best. The book has science, covers violence, self-reliance, and does away with silence. The time has come for the work to get done and build up a land that be second to none. We'll organize, acknowledge, strategize a new Africa before our eyes, and blackness will be the complexion we see anytime we envision what it means to be free. So come join minds, read what is written. Here be solutions, no longer hidden. Nothing works in theory, all that works and works. So it's time to put ourselves first. Change the leaders and lead the changes. Tell your friends, family, and neighbors. Change the leaders and lead the changes. Tell your friends, family, and neighbors. Change the leaders and lead the changes. Tell your friends, family, and neighbors. Change the leaders and lead the changes. Book of Power. So the Book of Power can be purchased on Amazon. Just click on the link below. Alright, send me tap. Tulende ma'at, tushinde is fat. Tulende ma'at, tushinde is fat. Tulende ma'at, tushinde is fat. Tap.
Okay, so sorry about that. my son just came back into the house, and so I had to open the door for him. It's alright. So keep a close eye on African princes, chiefs, princesses, and all such fake personalities who come into the meetings of the UNIA. No prince, chief, or princess adopts such methods of going around begging and exploiting. Princes and princesses are royal personalities who stay at home or only make state visits to other countries and are generally accommodated by the head of a nation. Anytime such fake princes or chiefs come among you, expose them and drive them out. Never entertain anyone who claims to be a Christ, God, John the Baptist, or such presumptuous titles. So again, there was a sister. We want to look. I think her name was. I feel like her name was Kofi or something. I don't know, but she was. She was killed, but she was a princess allegedly. But so this Garvey might be talking about this situation. Now I don't. He wasn't responsible, obviously. But this is a matter that is something that happens among our people. That there will be some people making false claims. I have to hurry up a little bit though, because obviously, I gotta attend to this child now. But let's go. Never allow divisions to take the words of persons claiming to be. Wait, hold on a second. Let me make sure you can hear me. Okay. Never allow divisions to take the word of persons claiming to represent Mr. Garvey or claiming to be sent by Mr. Garvey. Let them produce the letter. If they can't, drive them away. Whenever you find such fakers, hand them over to the police and make an example of them. Have it announced in the newspaper to scare others. Whenever anyone is called upon to sit in the Unia meeting and speak in your presence and say things not in keeping with the policy or membership training of the association, after they have finished, you should rise immediately and correct them for the good of the membership. Instruct all presidents and presiding officers to do the same. So this is important too. Like if somebody claims to be, Oni did this, blah blah, have them produce. Like compile evidence. Accept evidence. Don't accept fake. People are going to fake all the time. Don't accept fakers. When you think something is detrimental to the organization, its policies, never fail to correct it immediately. Correct things immediately so that the people may not get the wrong impression. Always defend the organization and protect its name in the public press or otherwise. If you find an opportunity to debate with others people to maintain the principles of the organization, do so by challenging them. Before you debate, always read up on the point of view or subject so as to be able to handle the same in keeping with the principles and objects of the Unia. Whenever you are in doubt about anything in the Unia, write to headquarters. Never take it upon yourself to settle the question decisively if you are in doubt. Always say, pending the ruling of my superior officers, this is my opinion. Leave it at that. Do this only when you are in doubt. Encourage the division to use only programs at regular and public meetings that express the sentiments of Negroes. For instance, all recitations should be by Negro poets and authors. Songs and hymns and choruses should be by Negro composers also. Encourage the juveniles to study Negro poems and songs. Encourage local divisions to have a reader who is educated to read striking articles from the black man each week. And this I want to say, look, you can read the Book of Power. You understand? Encourage some bright juvenile in each division to study and recite the tragedy of white injustice. Well, look at this. The tragedy of white injustice, that's in the pro-black compendium. It says, never have them recite this poem when white people are present. You gotta watch out. You read the poem, you'll see why. Encourage some bright boy or girl to study and recite African fundamentalism. Always keep these two major bits of literature before the people until they come to know them almost by heart. So this is what I want. We're going upon the last lesson. I hope you enjoyed it so far. Thank you for being with me. I have to go and be a baba right now. I have to go be a parent. Sure, but thank you for joining me. Thank you for sticking along. I hope you enjoyed it. I want you to understand, though, that we have the Book of Power. This is kind of why I wrote it, so that young people and older people, but every Bible could just have the best literature available to them. And you're going to see, when you get this book, you'll see you have the best literature at your fingertip. I'm glad you came with me to this message of the people. Sorry for the little interruption. Hope the little song. I know I don't usually do 2 ads at once. This was a longer chapter. This was a longer lesson than I expected. But hey, thank you for being with me, and I'll see you next time. I can't believe it. It's almost finished. But Shem Yem Hotep.